Hey everybody, so today I'm going to be reviewing The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins, and this is going to be a spoiler-filled review just because I don't think it makes a lot of sense to talk about this book spoiler-free because I think that I was one of the few people who did not read this book when they were younger, and I think that there's a lot that people can look at as why they should read this book, so I'm just going to be talking about spoilers. And so let me just say that while I never read this book before, I did see the movie a couple years ago, and I had seen it long enough ago where like as soon as something would happen in the book, it would like jog my memory about it in the movie, and like I had a pretty good understanding of like most of the big plot beats, but there were some little things that I'd kind of like forgotten, so it was really nice being kind of like refreshed of them along the way. And so let's just start where I'm going to be kind of talking about this book as if like I know it's intended for a younger audience, but I feel like it's kind of reached that stature where like it's fair to just talk about it like it's a regular book. And honestly, I have no problem talking about it like it's a regular book because I think it holds up pretty well. I think that this book talks about a lot of really interesting things. The way it talks about death, I think, is really interesting. One of my like some of the thoughts that PETA has prior to the games, I find those to be some of the more intriguing discussions. Just him wanting no, accepting death to an extent, and then just not wanting to lose himself in that. I found that to be really entertaining. One of the things that I really enjoyed about this book was that people thought that Katniss like Katniss giving herself up for Prim, like taking her spot. I liked that the people at the Capitol like respected that. Like I feel like a lot of times in stories you'll have someone do like a heroic thing, and people like won't talk about that. People won't acknowledge like this incredibly heroic thing. But yeah, Katniss taking Prim's spot was like very very heroic, and I'm glad that we see that like people at the Capitol appreciate that, and one of the things early on that made her a favorite. Some of the beats in this book I actually felt played out better in the movie. That's just me, probably an unpopular opinion. I really liked the scene where Katniss and Peeta first kind of burst on. They're in the chariot and they have the fire around them. I personally just enjoyed that scene in the movie better. Maybe it just my imagination wasn't up to par, but for some reason I just I kept thinking that I liked the movie scene better. I also enjoyed probably the interviews a little bit better, especially between Peeta and Caesar. I thought that interview played out better in the movie just because in the book you just kind of get oh, they had some banter and oh, they pretend to smell each other, but in the movie you actually get to see it happen. And I just thought that the actor that played Peeta did a good job of carrying out that charisma that the character Peeta was supposed to do. And so I really enjoyed that aspect. Another thing that I like about just this book overall is I like that I think a lot of people, when they think about this book, they would think about the Hunger Games specifically. But there's actually a whole lot that we get outside of the Hunger Games, and a good portion of this book is spent in preparation for the games and kind of building up to it. And I really like that because for a couple of reasons. I think that one, it was really interesting. I would honestly might enjoy that part more than the actual in the games. It'd kind of be a toss up. But the other reason is that I think that it lays a lot of the groundwork that makes when you actually get to the games this is a huge moment when you actually get to the games, because there's been so much build up and preparation to it. I really like that. I do think that there's little elements Katniss, everything just went very very perfect for Katniss. That's fine. I found myself less rooting for Gale in the book than I do in the movie, just because I feel like the actor that plays Gale does a really good job in the movie, and he's he comes off as this really nice guy, but in the book and also in the movie, a lot is left up to your interpretation of what she kind of how she feels about Gale. In the book, it's pretty clear cut. She doesn't have romantic feelings for Gale, and so for me personally, I'm okay, that's Gale is out of the running. Peeta also, really doesn't have that many romantic feelings for Peeta either, and so I'm a little bit oh, but you shouldn't have to be in a relationship with either of them. And then I also felt I didn't like that this book ended the very very last chapter. With Katniss kind of revealing that her her feelings for Peeta were overstated in the games, and Peeta getting upset about that. I felt that was a bit of a weaker, less dramatic ending than just ending with President Snow just kind of this more ominous presence. We don't really get him throughout the book, and then we get this bigger figure, and we realize that Katniss has made not the best enemy. And so that's I didn't care for the ending in that way. I like the overall ending. Something I thought was really interesting was when they at the very end when they were like gonna take the berries, well, one thing that I thought was interesting is that in the movie it's really kind of played off that like, oh, Katniss knew that like this was gonna stop them, but in the book I really got the vibes that like they were ready to just kind of go down together. That neither of them wanted to kill the other one, and they're like, this is how we'll get out of it. In the movie it felt like that would have been, they were worried that would be too sad, so they didn't do that. But then like when they when the announcer, like prior to them realizing that they would have to go against each other, when the announcer says, oh, like, you know, it turns out there's not gonna be two winners, you two will have to go against each other. Peeta like reaches for his knife, he goes, well, we always knew it would come to this. And then Katniss pulls up her bow, and then Peeta's like, all right, you should shoot me. But it's like, was Peeta about to like try and kill Katniss? Like, I was that really caught me off guard there. It seemed totally out of character. I'm not sure, maybe I'm misreading that scene. If I am, please comment down below. But that's what I took away from it. And then also the moment where in the, you know, in the middle of the games where they do announce that there could be two winners if they came from the same district. I had forgot about that in the movie, and so when it happened in the book, I was like, oh, that's awesome. And then instantly I remembered that it doesn't work out like that, and I'm like, oh, those sons of guns. And also I do think that I actually really liked that it was just from Katniss's perspective. I enjoy the scenes that they added in the movie. I think that they did a good job with that. But I like this just being inside Katniss's head. It's also written in first person. First person isn't my favorite way of writing, like my favorite format. I know that it's very common with young adult, and so just gonna accept it. But yeah, it wasn't my favorite thing. I thought that Suzanne Collins' prose were pretty good for young adult, and so overall I really enjoyed this book. I would definitely recommend it to, if someone hasn't read it, I would highly recommend it. Really short, burn through it in a day. It's really, really not long. And yeah, I really enjoyed this, and I hope you guys enjoyed this review. And yeah, make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and have a great day.